So many people struggle with motivation during rehearsal. They feel lazy, low energy, and they're only there because they feel obligated to, not because they want to. Does it sound familiar? If you want to feel motivated for long periods of time at rehearsal, then you have to understand that there are things that are in your control and things that are not in your control. Let's break down what's not in your control. So when you're at rehearsal, the difficulty of the challenge you're being given is not in your control. That is up to the designers and the people leading rehearsal. When we're training anything, there are 3 levels of difficulty. There's the things that you can do on your own, there's the things that you can do with support from an instructor, and there's things that you can't do even with the help of your instructor. And when the challenge we're given is primarily existing in that realm of things we can't do, even with support, it's very hard to stay motivated because all you're doing is failing over and over and over again. So what the instructors would need to do is either slow the tempo down or change the part to meet your current skill level. So ideally, we want to float in that realm of things that you can do with support, because then that's going to challenge you appropriately, and when you're challenged appropriately and you achieve, that is very motivating. So the next thing that's not in your control is the flow of rehearsal. Like, does your band have a plan? Is there agenda? Is there direction towards a goal for that block of rehearsal? I have seen multiple bands show up without a plan, and what ends up happening is they spend way too much time on a project that only involves a small percentage of the group. You leave out 80% of the band for an entire hour. And so if you're in that 80% that's uninvolved, it's very hard to maintain motivation when you're not being engaged. So something that you can do in that event is just set your equipment down, stretch your body, do some exercises, stay active, stay moving so that you can stay engaged. And sometimes bands have the rest periods scheduled in, but sometimes they don't. And you end up rehearsing for like an hour and a half with no break. And as a performer on the field, it is so tough to maintain motivation and focus for that duration of time. Whereas when a band has water breaks scheduled in every 25 to 30 minutes, it is much easier for the performers to maintain motivation throughout the rehearsal. Again, that is not in your control, and I got no solution for you. It's on your instructors. So now let's talk about things that are in your control. The first one has to do with you showing up prepared to rehearsal. Did you put the time in outside of rehearsal to show up ready to make progress with the band? If you didn't, you're probably figuring things out on the spot and you're probably making a lot of mistakes. And as a performer, it is so hard to maintain motivation when all you're doing is just failing, rep after rep after rep after rep. How can you expect to stay motivated through that? You have to put in the work to show up prepared, and that is entirely in your control. The next thing that is in your control is the mindset you have at rehearsal. There's 2 types of people out there. There's those with the growth mindset, people that believe that they can continue improving, mistakes are learning opportunities, people that believe that they have more potential to grow. Then there's people with a fixed mindset. These are the people that say, I can't do this. This is too hard, I can't. They put themselves in a box and there's no room for growth. Failure to them is a sign of, that's my limit, and I guess I'm not getting any better than that. So the mindset you choose to show up with is another thing that is entirely in your control. Another very important thing that is in your control is your health. Like, are you getting enough sleep? If you're only sleeping for 3 hours a night because you were doom scrolling all evening, then how can you expect to stay motivated when your body just needs sleep and you're out on the field rehearsing? And your nutrition, what are you eating before rehearsal? If you're just eating a bunch of junk food that's heavy and greasy, your body is going to feel heavy and greasy out on the field. You're probably just gonna sweat. You're gonna sweat McDonald's out your pores. So just avoid those highly processed foods and like eat a bowl of oatmeal. Eat some oatmeal, eat some scrambled eggs if that's your vibe, and you will set yourself up for success. And also your stress management. If you're showing up to rehearsal and all you can do is think about how you've procrastinated on your essay, and now when you go home, you're gonna have to write it all. Like, you gotta manage your workload appropriately outside of rehearsal so that when you're there, you can focus entirely on rehearsal. And the last thing that is in your control is the excuses that you make for yourself. If you're showing up and you don't know your music, you're gonna make an excuse as to why you didn't do it. Like one day, okay, but if it's happening consistently and you're always just making these excuses, like how are you supposed to find motivation when you're just showing up and failing all the time? At some point, you need to accept accountability for your band and take these responsibilities and apply yourself to them. Because once you actually taste success on the field, you will never settle for anything less. So stop making excuses and start practicing. Let me know what tips you have for staying motivated during rehearsal down in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest and greatest marching band tips.